Hello there. My name is Carol, and you are listening to the Light FM Girl Talk podcast.
This is Alicia.
Hey, I'm Tricia.
And we're so glad that you've joined us today. We are going to cover a very difficult topic today, a topic that came up while we were just having a conversation in the hallways. And Tricia, I think it started with you.
Yeah, so what happened was something happened to me, and it bothered me. And I had it on my heart, and it was bugging me, and it was upsetting me, and it was coloring my day. And I thought, I just want to get this off my chest. I want to talk to a friend about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went in, and I started talking to a friend about what was going on. And as I was talking, I thought, wait a minute, am I gossiping? Or am I just sharing what's going on? And I was kind of talking about the situation, but I was also second guessing myself. Should I be doing this? Should I choose somebody else to talk to that doesn't have anything to do with this situation? Or is it okay to talk about someone who knows the people that I'm talking about? And it just got to be like this big crockpot stew of mess. Nobody wants a crockpot stew of mess.
No, not at all.
So the question that I have is, when is it okay to share what's going on, and when does it cross the line, the not so good line, into gossip and doing the wrong thing?
I think there is a big difference between confiding and gossiping. Confiding is a safe place that you've had relationship with, who you know will not repeat what you've shared. So that's one thing. I think gossiping comes when the intent of the conversation is not to work through your things, but to point out all of their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I think, let's just be honest. Every day we come through struggles and difficulties, and we got to have a safe place to bleed. We got to find people that we trust who we can talk through things with. And I believe that's one reason God created us as a body of believers, because the thing I struggle with will be very different than what you struggle with. But at different times in our lives, we'll be able to help each other because you've been through different life experience. Mm-hmm. But I do think there is a fine line. And I think you mentioned something very important. In the middle of that conversation, you felt that kind of
that sort of
icky feeling. I think that's the Holy
icky
Spirit saying, you're going a little bit too far here. Because I definitely think there are times in my life where I'll get done with a conversation and I'll be like, oh, man, what did I just do?
Yeah.
And I'll have to go back to that person and say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things. I apologize. But, the truth of the matter is, once they're out of your mouth, you cannot take them back, especially if it's just a casual relationship, if it's not somebody that you consider a safe person. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. And I think about the analogy of toothpaste, the toothpaste tube. Once you squeeze out the toothpaste, you can't get it back in there. And that is so true. And I did have that little bit of icky feeling like, maybe this is not the right thing, or maybe I've gone too far. Mainly because the person knew the other person. Do you know what I mean? So there was some overlap versus talking to a friend about a situation where they don't really know the major players.
Right.
And it's tricky.
Yeah.
Because you also want someone to understand.
Right. Because I feel it's very important to talk to someone about what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To find that confidant, someone that you can trust. That Carol, you said it right on. That is key.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to tell people what's going on, because one, no one can help you if you don't share it.
Good.
I kind of liken it to a job.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who get afraid to say they're looking for a job because they're afraid their boss is going to find out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you never have the confidence to say, hey, I'm looking for a job, no one's going to help you find it.
That's interesting.
And so you've got to be able to share with people what's happening, because they're going to have an experience, or they may know, like in this case, I don't know, maybe you could have shared with someone, like you said, that didn't know the other person, but maybe you needed another perspective of someone that did know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't crack down on yourself too hard. But you do have to find the line of oversharing. But I want people to know that they need to go find people to talk to about what they're going through.
And I have a master's degree in oversharing. I am the oversharing queen. If you ever listen to my show, you completely agree with me. No, but I think it is true when you you move from the situation to somebody's character. You know, that, especially when you're dealing with somebody that has for instance, if Alicia had done something and you and I were talking about it and you said, this is what Alicia did. If you started attacking her character, that would be the point where I should stop you and say, wait, that's
Alicia's
a character
really
thing.
nice person.
Alicia is
we
the
love
best,
her.
and I love her.
I didn't say anything about you, Alicia.
I was just using that as an example. But
no, you're
but
right.
when you go to
You're
attacking her character, then that should be where the person who has a mutual association with that other person would say, nah, that's more attacking their character.
You know,
too.
One of the reasons I really like what you said then is that when you're talking about someone's character, there's no benefit to that. But when you're talking about a situation that there might be some sort of a solution that would be beneficial for everybody involved, like, well, if you're having this kind of a struggle, try this, or some kind of a way of dealing with the situation, then you can have progress. If you're just talking about somebody's character, you're just tearing them down for no apparent reason.
Right. So true. But it's so easy to do.
You know, and sometimes I think you just need to get things off your chest. So one of the things I do, we've talked about before, is I journal. And a lot of times in a situation like this, let's say I was mad at someone and I wanted to go talk, but I felt like that would be attacking their character, I might just write down how I'm feeling about that person and just to get it out. I feel like I need an outlet to get all of these feelings and emotions out. And once they're out, I can kind of deal with it or forget it or move on or solve the problem or whatever. But if it's not appropriate for me to talk to someone about, that's just kind of another outlet that I've used to get those emotions out.
I love what you're saying. And here's the thing. I'm remembering we're, quote unquote, good girls, right? We're trying to be Christian girls.
Y'all are. I'm not.
Well,
I
we're
never
all
claimed
trying.
that.
We're trying. So, you're trying to do your best. You're trying to be authentic. You're trying to share your faith. You're trying to be a Christian. And so then we're not allowed to be angry, or we're not allowed to do the wrong thing. And so a lot of times I think I stuff down situations that upset me or that make me angry. I don't talk about them. I stuff them down because I'm not allowed to have those feelings. I'm not supposed to have that. And the more I stuff my feelings down, I think the more I have problems with anxiety.
Oh, sure.
I think there's a big connection there.
Well, because you never know when that's going to come out, but you know it will.
It will. It's simmering under there.
Oh, my goodness. And for me, I mean, it most often comes out taking it out on my kid because she's the easiest one, you know?
Right.
You know, and I end up blowing it with her because I'm mad about something that happened here at the office.
That you didn't get off your chest.
Exactly. And it's going to come out. That's the important thing to remember. And I keep going back to what you said. It's important for us to talk to each other because we have seen way too many people suffer in silence in this past year. And so if you are feeling desperate, if you're at a point where you're wondering if life is even worth living, please reach out to someone. Reach out to us. We would love the opportunity to talk with you and to pray with you. We're not professional counselors. You need to get with somebody who can help you process through that. But I think it is important to say, hey, I'm hurting, or I'm frustrated, or I'm mad, or because if you do stuff, and I only know this because I'm a professional stuffer as well as a professional oversharer, that it will come out in other places. I mean, it can't help but to show up in other places, when you get snippy with your kids or with your spouse, or, you bite somebody.
Road rage.
Yeah, road rage.
Sorry.
Now you're
meddling.
meddling.
And I think sometimes there's a little bit of shame in some things that you're going through in your life, and when you are able to share that with someone. I've been in conversations with people recently. I'm like, me too. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking. And I was like, there's a sense of relief. It's like, oh my gosh, I am not the only one going through this. And it's just through casual conversations. But because someone opened up and shared, that opened the door for us to talk more.
And I think, Tricia, just what you said, we're, trying to be good girls and we're not allowed to have those emotions. God gave us all the range of emotions. He created those. He put those inside our female minds and bodies, and so they are created by him. And we have to realize that they are real, and there's nothing wrong with feeling those things. But where we get in trouble is when we act on those things, and we've got to find a place where we can, I know we have talked several times, just getting exercise helps mentally. I have seen the biggest difference over the last year in my mental capacity just from exercising, and how I'm able to deal with things. And, I can say, oh, that's a big deal. And then I go into the gym and work out good for an hour and I'm good and worn out. And I say, oh, it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Right. It gives you perspective.
Yeah, it gives me perspective. But it also makes me a better mom. And it also makes me a better friend. And the effects go on and on and on and on and on and on. But I think you truly have to go back to your motive. What is your motive? What is the reason what do you want the outcome to be?
That's a good thing to think about going into it.
Yeah. What do you want the outcome to be? Do you want the outcome to be you have more people on your side? Or do you want the outcome to be you work through it and restore the relationship or restore the situation or work through it?
Yeah, you need help. You need help coming up with an idea to help you through it.
Right.
That, I think, is a really great motive to start a conversation with somebody.
That frees me up. That frees me up to
Right?
talk a little bit more.
Yeah,
with
I think
that
so.
in mind.
Well, you just can't keep these things to yourself. And I think I don't know why, but we don't share things that we could easily share. And in this case, we're talking about, is it gossip or is it not? But sometimes you just have to say it to somebody so that you can get further. You can take a step forward.
That is so true. Because if you don't say it, there again, it's going to come up somewhere else.
Yes.
And might show up somewhere else. And that's the thing about it. It's unpredictable, I mean, you lose it at Starbucks because they got your order wrong.
Yeah.
It's really not what's wrong. There's something else going on there, That's the fruit, not the root. That's the way my pastor put it. You're dealing with the fruit, which is your Starbucks order is wrong, when you really should be dealing with the root, which is you're mad at your boss.
Right.
And so I think those are all important things for us to remember. So just to recap and kind of go back, just make sure you're not attacking somebody's character. I think that's what divides, that's the dividing line between gossip and confiding in somebody. Make sure you have somebody who's safe. They're not going to go tell everything that you tell them. If you don't have that somebody, just begin to pray that God would bring someone, because there's probably somebody else in your circle who's praying that very same thing, and you guys can be a support to each other. I would say this. This is kind of a rabbit trail, but I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I would say be a safe person.
Yes.
There is a big temptation, especially with women, for us to know something and then to go tell it. So if you want a safe person, be a safe person. Don't share. Pray. Ask God for wisdom of that situation, but just be a safe person. Don't attack somebody's character. Find a safe place to share your stuff that you're going through, because it is going to come up in other places. And most importantly, just remember to pray. I mean, if you are talking to somebody and you feel that little check in your heart and you're like, this feels icky, probably the Holy Spirit kind of saying, yeah, that's far enough. And maybe after today's podcast, there's some phone calls you need to make or some visits you need to make. You need to stop by a cubicle and say, hey, the other day I was talking about such and so, and I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said those things. I was in a bad place. I think there is so much healing that can happen in humility and saying, I'm sorry. And so there may be some phone calls you need to make or some visits you need to make. We would challenge you to do that and to share with us your story, because we don't have it all figured out. If you got some tips on how to just confide and not gossip, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. And girls, we'll get together another time around these same microphones and talk about something else. How about it? We'll see you next time.